Hi, everyone. Welcome to the second episode of Conceptualism. Today, I have with me a guest who's doing some incredibly interesting work with brainwave reading. You heard that correct, brainwave reading and music. She's a neuroscientist. She studied biology in university, and she is an incredible musician. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
So I guess I should start by asking you, yeah, how did this project come about? Like, whose idea was it? Was it a collaborative idea? Is it your idea?
Yeah, so it's actually, it was an idea that I came up with last year, and it actually stemmed from a number of years of doing a bunch of different types of brainwave frequency projects.
Right.
So I do have a degree in biology and neuroscience, which sort of sparked my interest years ago in the brain and neuroscience. And a few years later, I was doing a bunch of reading on brainwave frequencies and music and binaural beats, which kind of led me into kind of sourcing different brainwave headsets. So I stumbled across this brainwave headset called Emotive Epoch Plus, which is a research grade portable EEG headset. And the cool thing is that you can, it comes with a software package that you can end up using the developer software package to hack different things. So the first few projects we're doing actually light up fashion tech outfits.
I read about that. That's so cool. That's so wonderful.
Yeah, so it kind of was my first little foray into working with this kind of new modality. And basically, I made a dress that showed brainwave activity in real time with colored lights. And then the next project I did actually experimented a little bit with simplistic brainwave controlled music, where we basically triggered some basic drum loops in Ableton using the headset. And then last year I was applying for funding to record my first album. And I was thinking, well, what's going to be a really cool, unique spin on this album? And I knew there was this big synthesizer at the National Music Center here in Calgary called Tonto.
Yes.
And I thought, maybe we could actually try controlling Tonto with brainwaves. So what was kind of like a big crazy dream last year actually just came to fruition a couple weeks ago. I had a really awesome team. I have an engineer friend who's got a degree in mechatronics, and he's also an electronic dance music producer. And then I also have a producer that I work with for my electropop, Angie C music. He's got tons of industry experience. So with the combination of those two people, we had a great team to partner with Studio Bell and their sound engineer and made some history.
Remarkable. I mean, it's mind-boggling. You know, I've been telling all my friends about it, like, and some of my mentors as well. I said, you know, I'm interviewing this person who's done this incredible thing with, you know, brainwaves and a synthesizer, and they were like, are you serious? Is that even possible? I was like, I couldn't make this up if I wanted to. And so I sent them the link. I sent them the link to, you know, the CBC article and the, you know, the podcast that you did, and they're all mind blown. So we're all like just in awe of what you're doing. It's like, it's unbelievable.
That's awesome.
And it actually inspired me, you know, to consider like implementing a way for me to control the instrument that I'm designing, you know, with my brain. I never thought that I could do something like that. And I think it would be great to have that ability to do something like that, because, you know, to have like a musician who's disabled in some way, like a paraplegic, for example, and have them actually interact with my instrument, that would be amazing. So, and you inspired that. So thank you.
Yeah. Awesome. You're welcome. Yay for science and music.
Yes. I'm sure you know about cymatics.
Yes, I do. Yeah, that's a really interesting field. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's where different frequencies will actually create different geometric patterns if you put sand on a speaker.
That's right.
It's super cool, yeah, which, I mean, that can lead down a whole rabbit hole of, you know, what that even can create philosophically, and I don't know, just the physics of it all is super interesting.
Right, and you know, it can also control things like fire and of course water and even more viscous liquids. It has it has very weird effects. You know, depends on what the sound wave is affecting. And you know, when I was thinking about how it would like work with, you know, like for example, your brain waves interacting with Tonto, and then whatever's coming out of Tonto would control like something, a setup of cymatics like water, sand, fire, whatever. And like that could be like such a cool music video, like 'cause you'd
Totally.
literally be controlling these things with your mind. It's like the Matrix.
Yeah. Yeah, literally. So, I mean, like, there's so many avenues for it. I think the exciting thing is, like, now that we've done this conceptually and actually pulled it off, it's, you know, just one step closer to actually being able to get more detail with creating music and sound with your thoughts. I think I get really excited about, like, when I read about artificial intelligence and how, I mean, even AI is better than the human eye at predicting, say breast cancer on a radiology screening. So if you took something like AI, which could like get super detailed on algorithms, like who's to say that you couldn't get it to figure out what your brain does when you're thinking of a particular snare drum sound and say, oh, this is what, you know, Angie's brain looks like when it's thinking of the snare drum sound. So we're just gonna, you know, pick that note out in Logic Pro or GarageBand, whatever you're working in. And, you know, like, I don't know, there's really cool things down the road, I think, to come from all this.
Yeah, the possibilities are absolutely endless. Like, you know, like 100 years from now, 200 years from now, people are gonna look back at us using keyboards and say, really, they use keyboards? Like what? Like what even is this? Like, because everything's gonna be VR and like controlled by the voice, or maybe even just the mind. You won't even have to talk to the technology. It just knows what you're thinking.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing. I think when I first started playing around with Tonto and I had the brainwave headset on, I kept feeling like I needed to do a physical movement to like get a response, but it's actually quite the opposite. Like, we ended up using different algorithms that were in the software program for engagement, excitement, stress, focus, things like that. So Mitchell created kind of an in-between software where you could choose, say, engagement, and we had like a circuit box that had digital to analog converters. So basically it would turn the data into a voltage control and send that voltage control to Tonto.
Right.
And so we could link, say, engagement to like the low frequency oscillator on Tonto. So then, you know, that will kind of, you can play with the rate of the LFO just by thinking things. So like, for instance, I thought of a purple flame coming down through my body and into the ground, and it just brought the, like, the LFO was like, wow, 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 like, so cool. Yeah, it's weird, but like, really cool.
Like, and you know what that makes me think of? Like that makes me think of like a really weird graphic score where like you could have pictures of purple flames as like the graphic indicator for like somebody else that might want to like use. Obviously the everyone's brain is different and it would always interact differently, but you could literally create a graphic score of the stuff that you thought about while you were making this piece of music.
That's actually a really good idea. I never thought of that. I guess I hadn't thought that far down the road, but that's actually super cool. Like, then,
and it could even be archived like in the Canadian Music Center as like the score to this, you know, to this work, because like it wouldn't make sense to conventionally score it because it's not a conventional way of doing anything. So it makes total sense to create like a graphic or video score which sort of documents what it is you were thinking.
Totally. And I wonder, so here's another little thought. You know how they have, what's that video game, Guitar Hero?
Yeah.
Where like you have the video game and, you know, well, what if that was like graphics in like a VR game and then your mind is just creating the soundscape? Anyways,
that would be so cool. That would be epically cool. And And you know what be even more interesting is like if for some in some way you could get like a bunch of people you know, to virtually connect with Tonto from like around the world and get like a symphony like of people playing Tonto but from different parts of the world with VR headsets and a brainwave reader plugged into a computer, like you know, that could be
Yeah.
interesting too. Like,
Yeah.
and because not everybody's going to actually be able to come to Calgary and you know and interact with Tonto in the same way, like in the same room, but like if
Yeah.
you gave people the ability to do that from different parts of the world, especially now during the pandemic, that could be
Yeah.
like a really interesting extension of the project, you know.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking out loud, I mean, I don't know if that's even possible or feasible.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it would all depend on like partnership with Studio Bell, but even like when Mitchell was actually testing his software program, he just rented an analog synthesizer from Long and McQuaid in Vancouver,
Right.
and you know, could practice on that. So like I just need to buy like a little Windows laptop in the next few weeks to actually like be able to just do this at home. Because I think that was the other thing I had in mind when I initially did the project, was that one of my goals was to actually do like a live performance with live brainwave control music,
Yeah.
which seemed like such a stretch at the time. But like now that we've got the software developed and the box that will like be the linking point between the headset and the synthesizer, like I think it's definitely something that's anyone could just come over and pop the headset on and do.
Right. Right. Like it's totally
Yeah.
scalable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but
Yeah.
you'll always be known as the first person to do something like this, like with Tonto
Yeah.
and the brainwave. Yeah. No,
Totally.
it's incredible. It's so amazing. And actually, you know, I was thinking of like how you might be able to control like a pipe organ or like you know, or some other large instrument with a brainwave reader. Again, like
Yeah.
you know, because I mean, some pipe organs have MIDI built in, so maybe like the brainwave reader could be programmed to like convert that data into like MIDI data and then trigger things on the pipe organ.
Yeah, totally.
You know.
Yeah, I think that could, like I know there's some functionality as well in Ableton to connect to some of these headsets
Uh-huh.
using, I want to say the program is called Mind Your OSCs. Um,
Okay.
I haven't really looked into the details too much, but I think it might even be possible in Ableton to control the MIDI data with a brainwave headset. But I haven't actually done that myself yet.
So cool. And I read that you wanted to become a doctor, and that you wanted to go to medical school. Um, and I also read that you're interested in sound healing and astral projection and things like that.
Yeah. So, my background is, I have a long history of being a musician, like classical piano and writing songs, bagpipes, oboe, fiddle. And then I think like there was a point coming to the end of high school where, you know, the message was, you know, you got to go get a real job. And, you know, music was kind of just this hobby, but something I was really passionate about and had a lot of talent for. And then I decided I was going to go to do science at Dalhousie and be a doctor. And,
Right.
you know, then I could probably just do music on the side. But I ended up discovering neuroscience halfway through my degree. So that's when I really started getting passionate about the brain.
Right.
And I applied for med school probably about 4 or 5 years. I was waitlisted. I was accepted to an international school, but then that had some barriers to it as well. So it just came to the point where like I had to make a decision just to close the door on that dream because it really wasn't working out and my heart just wasn't in it anymore. So that led to a couple years of just trying a whole bunch of stuff from like a yoga teacher training program where I got really deep on meditation, learned about binaural beats, and just even playing with the mind in general. There's so many places you can go in your mind that I just don't think we typically allow ourselves to try. So it was really some good discovery there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was just kind of a couple years of that and bringing music back into my life. And I mean, here we are. Like it led to this really cool, you know, thing that just I never even saw it coming, to be honest.
Amazing. Yeah, absolutely amazing. And you know, like sound and healing are actually a very very tangible intersection. And it's, you know,
Mhm.
sound has been used in healing for a very long time. You know, in India, in Ayurveda practice, they use particular sounds in their healing process. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
and with Tibetan Buddhism, they, you know, they have the singing bowls that they will use in
yeah,
their practice. So so I think like I think creating sound installations that calm people down and give them a space to meditate and to reflect. I mean,
mhm,
that's another area that is really like interesting, and I think has a lot of
yeah,
potential to be explored.
yeah, totally. And I think, I mean, I always like to think about things in terms of frequency and energy. It just seems to be a real model that makes a lot of sense. So it's kind of interesting, even just to do mind exploration on, you know, like how would this sound be affecting the world around me or affecting my body? Because everything is really interconnected.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyways, that's how I like to think about it.
Yeah, no, no, absolutely. And I'm very inspired by Brian Eno. I'm sure you've heard of Brian Eno, and you know, one of the interesting applications for the brainwave reader could also be to
Mhm,
control like a visual installation,
mhm,
like he has an installation called 77 million paintings, which is basically 200 drawings that he did, which are then
mhm.
recombined in an infinite number of ways in a computer. I think he said something that, you know, the computer wouldn't repeat itself in 10,000 years. So
Interesting.
it would be really interesting to have the brainwave controller control some sort of visual backdrop, or like something like some sort of installation that would go along with the sounds. So like in concert, you know how
Mhm,
every, like Dead Mouse, for example, has this giant screens, a set of screens that he uses, which interact with all the sound that is being produced.
mhm.
Now, wouldn't that be
Yeah,
incredible if all of that was controlled by the mind? Like you had like a
totally,
visual and a sonic thing. I feel like that could be really interesting.
totally. Yeah, I know there's so many different like possibilities now that we have these devices. And I mean, if you have good programming skills and can kind of, you know, smash a couple interfaces together, like there's so many options and directions to go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so I listened to some of the music that you created with Tonto, and it's uh, yeah, I don't even know how to classify it. Like, I mean, which is great, because like I like to think that the best music sort of is unclassifiable. It exists somewhere in the hazy intersection between genres, you know, somewhere out there. It's like no one knows what this is.
Yeah. So we're still like the album, we're still finishing the album. But what we like, we do have some sound clips that we had recorded like during our recording sessions.
Hmm.
So, I mean, with it, like Tonto is such a massive instrument and there's so many options for sounds
Yeah,
that
you could
we
get
really
lost
had
in
to
that.
kind of, yeah, so we really had to go in with like a plan. So, we've got 6 songs for the album. So we went in with like vocals already done, some
Hmm.
basic structure for the songs,
Hmm.
and then we kind of chose certain moments um, where certain brainwave controlled Tonto sounds will be featured. So
Okay.
it could be the bass line. Another thing we did was there was a John Broadwood grand piano from 1900 in the same room. So
Uh-huh.
I recorded myself playing on it, and we took that piano recording and put it through the filters on Tonto, and then manipulated, I think it was resonance and cutoff. So
Nice.
the piano has this cool, like brainwave controlled effect on it. So there's going to be little things like that in the album, so that like once it's released, it won't be too far out there. Because I think there are some other brainwave projects that have been done where it's more like super experimental. So
Right.
um, the job now is to kind of like corral it and make it something that still like sounds really good in the end.
Right, right. Well, I mean that approach is great. I mean, I'm definitely definitely down with that approach. I mean, and I'd be curious, like what you would do with the recordings that you don't use. Like maybe like maybe you could create like a B-side to the album, or like you know what I mean, like kind of
Yeah.
like some sort of some sort of like thing that shows off all the more abstract things that you do, which gives people an idea of what it sounded like unedited, you know.
Totally. So we do have, I do have one thing that I'm planning to do for anything that we don't use, like, because we recorded a ton of stuff. We were there for 2 days. But what my plan is to actually make like a sample loop library
Oh,
of
cool.
brainwave controlled Tonto. So, because I know there's tons of producers out there, they're gonna be like, this is so cool. So that's the goal. Like once we get the album complete in the next couple months, then I'll work on doing a sample loop library that we'll sell on the internet, and people can use it for their own projects.
I love that. That's so cool. That's a great application. I love that. That's so cool.
Awesome.
And did you have a chance to meet the makers of Tonto and work with them?
Yeah, so Malcolm Cecil, he was one of the inventors of Tonto.
Yes.
Back in the late 1960s, and he actually Zoomed in with us virtually for, I would say, probably 3 or 4 hours on our first official day of recording. And it was so neat. He's such a brilliant guy. And even just to look at Tonto and to think that it was created so many years ago, like, it's just this mecca of an instrument that was so like beyond, it was like, I don't know, it was so complex for its time.
Yeah.
So to be able to chat with Malcolm, and he was very excited too about the new brainwave technology, because I don't think he had ever really heard of that before. And you know, I think part of his hope was always for Tonto to be used for this really interesting, innovative stuff. So yeah, it was really awesome to have him in the room with us, even if it was virtually. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for this. This has been incredibly insightful, and yeah, I'm excited to see what you do next, and I'd love to hear the sample library when it comes out. Please let me know.
Awesome, I will for sure. And thanks for the interview today. It was awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lots of good ideas.
Thanks. Okay, bye.
Bye.